Listen to a talk on art history. Realist art began in France in the 1850s, but today we're going to talk about an American realist painter, Andrew Wyeth, whose name has become synonymous with the realist movement. Wyeth was exposed to art at a young age because, you see, his father, N.C. Wyeth, who was an accomplished painter and illustrator of books, taught Andrew many painting techniques. I'm sure he wouldn't have done that if he didn't think his son had talent. It sort of goes without saying that the tips paid off because we all know Andrew grew up to be one of America's most renowned artists. A lot of Andrew's early work gained enough attention to be sold to dealers, but it was through his painting Christina's World that he received his greatest fame. I'm pretty sure most of you have seen it at some point, maybe in a book or on TV. Anyway, the painting is of a woman named Christina who is sitting in a grassy meadow and looking toward a house. It's known for its literal depiction of a country landscape. You know, the style itself really couldn't have been more different from what was popular in art circles in those days. Because by the mid-20th century, abstract expressionism had really taken off in New York City. So, it might not surprise you to hear that Wyeth's art was polarizing. On the positive side, some critics praised what they saw as his revolutionary vision. This might sound contradictory. How can realism be revolutionary, right? Well, what they saw in Wyeth was a rebel against the incessant change and trends associated with modern art. Maybe more than anything, though, they respected how Wyeth could paint a landscape with photographic precision while instilling the painting with a deep and sincere emotional quality. The American people as a whole must have felt this way because Wyeth became very famous during his lifetime. Despite all the praise, Wyeth certainly attracted his share of negative attention too. Much of it, centered on the belief that he had added nothing new, or worse, had actually gone backwards. What I mean by that is, regardless of his skill, they thought he contributed nothing more to the world of art than pretty pictures. This sentiment became particularly strong in the 1950s and 1960s when the influence of artists like Jackson Pollock took hold of the art world. But that's for another class. So, even though Wyeth's works were highly regarded among the public, many artists and experts refused to give Wyeth any credit. They went so far as to call his work old-fashioned, claiming that it was completely out of step with the times. To give you an idea of how strongly some people felt about it, a curator in a well-known New York museum refused to participate in an exhibit just because it included some of Wyeth's works.
Wow, that curator must have felt silly in hindsight.
You can say that again. What I think is especially interesting is that Wyeth had to live with this controversy his whole life. Even at the time of his death, the debate about his relevance was still raging. I suppose from a purely practical perspective, though, the issue is pointless now. When some of an artist's paintings have sold for millions of dollars at auctions, that artist must have done something right. Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer. 23. What is the talk mainly about? Listen again to part of the lecture, then answer the question. Wyeth was exposed to art at a young age because, you see, his father, N.C. Wyeth, who was an accomplished painter and illustrator of books, taught Andrew many painting techniques. I'm sure he wouldn't have done that if he didn't think his son had talent. 24. What does the professor mean when he says this? I'm sure he wouldn't have done that if he didn't think his son had talent. 25. What does the professor say about Christina's world? 26. According to the professor, why were many artists and critics unwilling to give Wyeth's art any acclaim? 'Listen again to part of the lecture, then answer the question. To give you an idea of how strongly some people felt about it, a curator in a well-known New York museum refused to participate in an exhibit just because it included some of Wyeth's works.
Wow, that curator must have felt silly in hindsight.
27. Why does the student say this?
Wow, that curator must have felt silly in hindsight. 28. What is the professor's opinion of the controversy surrounding Wyeth's work?
'Listen to a lecture on psychology.
Hello, class. I'd like to start by talking about an experiment called the Sally Ann test. A psychologist puts on a skit for a group of children using two dolls, Sally and Ann. Sally is shown playing with a marble and then putting it away in her toy box before leaving. Then Ann comes in and plays with the marble, but puts it away in her basket. Ann goes away, Sally comes back, and the psychologist asks the children, where do you think Sally will look for the marble? 3-year-olds without a theory of mind, that is, without an understanding that others have their own mental states, desires, intents, and beliefs, will probably answer, in Anne's basket. Children closer to age 4 or those who have developed a theory of mind will likely say, in her box. I urge those of you with suitable research subjects at home to give it a try. We're not going to talk about children today, though. Many scientists think some animals have a theory of mind as well, so today we'll limit our discussion to vervet monkeys because research involving this South African monkey is often cited. In particular, scientists observe vervet monkeys because they sometimes sound false alarm calls, and scientists want to know, is this intentional? Because if it is, it would seem to support the idea that vervet monkeys have a theory of mind. 2 primate researchers at the University of Pennsylvania, Cheney and Seyfarth, once witnessed a low-ranking vervet monkey giving an alarm call when a new monkey approached the group. The low-ranking part is important because alarms are generally only sounded by animals high up in the social hierarchy. No predators were around, but the alarm call still made all the other monkeys climb up into the trees and hide. Now, some animal psychologists use this observation to speculate that the alarm-calling monkey's intent was to raise its social status in the new monkey's perception for the purpose of gaining a subordinate. The researchers argued that the alarm-calling monkey was able to put itself in the shoes of the other monkey and understand the effect a false alarm would have on its perception. What would this argument suggest? Simply that vervet monkeys have a theory of mind, that they can distinguish between reality and the perception of others. I'd like to point out, however, that the problem with using such anecdotal evidence is that it's so hard to prove. Other psychologists refute the claims made by Cheney and Seyfarth by referring to other experiments involving vervet monkeys. In these experiments, certain monkeys continuously made false alarm calls. They kept doing it until they were eventually ignored by the entire group. The newcomer, too, would eventually figure out what's going on and latch on elsewhere. In the end, maybe the presence of the new monkey had no bearing on the false alarm call being made. It could be an unintentional behavior, you know, something that indicates the monkey suffers from some sort of impairment or mental deficiency. This just goes to show you that scientists may interpret the same situation differently. It's difficult, if not impossible, to conduct psychological experiments on animals in the wild. So something like the Sally Ann test is impossible to conduct on the monkeys. Observation and induction are all scientists can rely upon. Neither side of the argument regarding a theory of mind in animals offers overwhelming evidence to me, and I'll leave it up to all of you to decide which explanation you prefer.
Now get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer. 29. What is the main topic of the lecture? 'Listen again to a part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
3-year-olds without a theory of mind, that is, without an understanding that others have their own mental states, desires, intents, and beliefs, will probably answer, in Anne's basket. Children closer to age 4 or those who have developed a theory of mind will likely say, in her box. I urge those of you with suitable research subjects at home to give it a try.
30. Why does the professor say this?
I urge those of you with suitable research subjects at home to give it a try.
'Listen again to a part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
2 primate researchers at the University of Pennsylvania, Cheney and Seyfarth, once witnessed a low-ranking vervet monkey giving an alarm call when a new monkey approached the group. The low-ranking part is important.
31. Why does the professor say this?
The low-ranking part is important.
32. What does the professor say about vervet monkey alarm calls?
According to the professor, what is the reason some scientists believe that vervet monkeys have a theory of mind?
34. What is the professor's attitude concerning theory of mind in animals?